Hey everybody, it's Dom. We're here for the first match of round 7 of our rotisserie draft. And this is going to be between Chris at 3-3 and Scott at 2-4. We've seen both players have already mulliganed to 6. Scott has a passable hand that includes Leyline of the Meek, 4 mana sources, and Selesnya Charm. And Chris has kind of a sketchy one. He doesn't actually have any green mana. He does have Burning Emissary to make a green mana once. So we'll see how that goes. Both players are going to get to scry. Chris is on the play. I think I'm going to be joined by a mystery guest here soon, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Chris has scried Mountain to the bottom. And I believe it's Scott's turn to scry. Scott kept whatever it was. It looks like it was Voice of Resurgence. Chris finds a forest. That's certainly helpful. He has the option of just casting Burning Tree Emissary as a Grizzly Bear here. There's no good use for Gruul Charm, so yeah, he's just going to play a 2-2. However, I believe this 2-2 is going to be blanked pretty effectively here by Voice of Resurgence. Also, this Leyline of the Meek will give the token an additional +1/+1 if Voice of Resurgence dies or Chris casts an instant on Scott's turn. Ground Assault is the draw. I could take care of the Voice, but it doesn't really seem worth it. I'm still going to leave that token behind. Chris probably just going to attack and then have the option to Blood Rush as Gore Clan Rampager, which would kill the Voice and trample over for 4. Oh, instead he's going to use Skarg the Rage Pits. Give his creature +1/+1 and trample. And I think I like this play because he has no better use for his mana this turn. And he uses all his mana this turn, and the Gore Clan can potentially take down a bigger blocker in the future. So we're going to have here a 2/2 green-white elemental token. 1 for having 1 creature, 1 for the bonus from Leyline of the Meek. Scott's draw is definitely mana heavy. So you can play a land and cast the Selesnya Signet and still have Selesnya Charm available. Selesnya Charm potentially very good against Gore Clan Rampager, which, and if nothing changes, we could see that can Blood Rush happen this turn. That would be a solid 2-for-1. The Selesnya Charm could exile the creature targeted. So both players have their charms in hand. Gruul Charm does not do much right now. It would be good against like a swarm of spirit tokens or something if we reach that stage of the game. And here is a Selesnya Signet. And just the pass of the turn. So he is preparing to block here. And we know that with the Selesnya Charm, he can make a 3/3 Knight blocker because of the Leyline, but that would also make the Elemental a 3/3. Chris draws another land. So both players a bit land flooded here. Scott also, excuse me, I've been kind of congested today. Scott also does not have black mana right now, which is worth noting. All right. So this is actually, so Scott sequencing here, I think he's going to get punished because if he's, this isn't going to work, like no matter what. If he's making a knight, he's just going to get blood rushed. If he's pumping his creature, he's still going to get blood rushed. So I think the right play might have been to block and offer the trade, and then wait, see if Chris acts, and then you can use your Selesnya Charm. In this case, it would be to exile the 6/6 Burning Tree, because Ground Assault is a sorcery. So I think Scott could have gotten much more value here if he had just declared the Elemental as a blocker and then waited for Chris to act. Of course, in that case, he's making this trade that he maybe doesn't want to make. Scott does draw a very good one here, Scion of V2 Ghazi. That's going to rebuild his board very effectively. He's probably, so he's going to get a 4/4, he's going to get a 2/2 bird, and then he could either populate this elemental or make another 2/2 bird. We know with the Gruul Charm in Chris's hand that he'd be better served with the elemental. That's probably what he's going to do anyway. I think he'd rather have a 5/5 than a 2/2 flyer. This is also a pretty huge game for both players in the tournament. Chris, well, Scott has to win. If Scott loses, he's out. 5 losses has no chance of making the top 4. If Scott wins, he brings Chris also to 3 and 4, and then he could get in depending on results from me and Yuki later in the round. Chris is in the interesting position of if he wins, he's not guaranteed to be in, but if he loses, he's not guaranteed to be out. But certainly if he wins, he's much more likely to make it than if he loses. There's still a scenario for a very elaborate, like 5-person tie at 3 and 4. It really depends on some of these other matches. And another miss here. I guess Chris can ground assault the Scion for 5 damage, which, oh, he's just going to kill an elemental, actually. I guess that's fine. I was going to say, killing the Scion would shrink both elementals, but maybe not enough for it to be useful. And then Gruul Charm can take out the bird, but he's still going to have a 2/2 facing down, a 4/4 and a 3/3 if he does that. Probably should have played Gruul. Oh no, he's leaving up Skarg, the Rage Pits, that's fine. Scott draws Ogre Slumlord with 0 black sources. This card proving, I think, somewhat difficult to cast in his deck. Alright, so Scott's just going to go to combat and attack with everything. I don't think there's a whole lot Chris can do here. So he can block the elemental. The elemental's a 4/4 also, so there's 2 4/4s. He can only get his Burning Tree up to a 3/3. Yeah, so he's probably, yeah, he just takes 10 damage, goes to 5. I guess he's going to hope to draw something here. Zertot Druid, that's probably not going to do it. I guess he gets a chump block. He could play the Zertot Druid, Gruul Charm to kill the bird. Then the elemental would only be a 3/3. Then he could double block the elemental to get that off the table and go to 1. He's probably going to like this plan more if Scott casts Growing Ranks pre-combat. Okay, Chris's draw has just not come together at all this game. He hasn't drawn a single threatening card other than the Gore Clan. Right, so here comes the squad. Right, here's a block. Here's a Scarg. Okay, so Gruul Charm is going to kill this bird. And then... okay, so the Elemental will become a 3/3, and it'll trade with the Burning Tree. So that's actually pretty good. Scott's going to go to... Or Chris is going to go to 1 and have no board. But this Growing Ranks actually just got blanked. Scots will probably still cast it for sake of mana efficiency. In case he draws a spell he wants to cast next turn. So here's the Growing Ranks. Chris has a couple turns. He's got this turn, he's got a chump blocker. Well, he bricked though, so he's going to have one more draw step. Zerta Druid comes down. And Scott draws Unflinching Courage. So Chris will not have one more draw step. Scott can't figure out what phase he's in right now, but I'm pretty sure he just has to cast this enchantment and win the game. So Rich Shea would call it a deterministic path to victory. No. Scion's going to get +2/+2 trample and lifelink and is going to end game 1. So that's a win for Scott. He's one game away from giving himself a chance to make the playoffs. One person at 3 and 4 made the playoffs in our Modern Rotisserie draft that we did a few months ago. It's certainly a thing that can happen. I still have old deck lists. I'll try to update the ones for the people that make the playoffs. This was from before round 1, so it might be a little different now. But just looking at the cards that everyone has access to. Chris has a bunch of dudes. He definitely wants the Savage Twister. Maybe the Armed Dangerous could force some blocks. That doesn't seem bad. Gruul Rage Beast, if we can get to that point in the game, seems pretty good. I'm not sure what to cut. Maybe, I think Ulash the Hate Seed might be a bit slow, if that's even still in the deck, in the main deck. Gruul Charm didn't seem that great there. Maybe Pit Fight or Signal of the Clans aren't too great. I think Pit Fight's probably fine. Maybe Signal of the Clans not great. Yes, he's got a few options. Scott got some tokens. He could bring in some more beaters if some Smiter, Hierarch, and Abzan. Those are all creatures that could come in and do some stuff. Looks like I've been dirtling too long, and we're actually back on turn 2 of the game already. So let's get back to the match itself. So we've got a pretty reasonable hands, it looks like, from both players. Scott does have all the colors. He's got 4 mana sources, Ready, Willing, Celestia Charm. So he's got a couple ways to make tokens. Chris has Burning Tree into Signal of the Clan. So it looks like he's casting Signal. He does only have 1 more mana source, and that's the Scarg. So he's looking for... he's found Zerta Druid and Gyre Sage. And the Scarg Guildmage may have come in from the sideboard. So he's fetched up 3 2-drops, so he's going to get one of them. So it's going to be Zertot Druid goes to hand, and the other cards will get shuffled back into the library. Ooh, Solana Star Fletcher. I don't think we've seen that one came in from the sideboard, I believe. So 1/3 that attacks as if it had, or sorry, it's a 1/3 that blocks as if it had flying. So basically has reach, and it taps for 1 of mana of any color. You have to choose that color when you cast it. For now, it's just gonna be called the Conclave to make a 3/3 Centaur. Both players kept their 7 according to the log. So we got a Centaur with no picture. Chris draws Gruul Signet. That's a pretty good one, I think, because now he can go land, Signet, Zertot Druid. It's a very efficient turn. It looks like that's the exact play he's making. He had the option also of going for the Blood Rush, but I think he wants to develop his mana. Oh, okay, so he's actually attacking, so he is going to go for the Blood Rush if he gets a block here. I feel like Scott probably smells trouble, and so yeah, he's just going to take the 2 damage. Zertot Druid comes down. Scott draws Scion of V2 Ghazi. He has the option of the same play, basically. He can play a Signet and play a 2-drop, either Star Fletcher or Selesnya Charm. Both of these seem reasonable. This is an interesting card to sideboard in, actually, because Chris has very few flying creatures. I think he just has the Skargan Firebird. Maybe Scott feeling the pressure to make better colored mana. Centaur is getting in. Selesnya Charm can make it a 5/5. Chris just takes the 3. Yeah, I like Signet 2-drop. Also ensures that even if he doesn't draw a land, he can cast Scion of V2 Ghazi next turn. So he's not going to cast Solana Star Fletcher. He's possibly going to use the Selesnya Charm at his end step. Rubblebelt Raiders is a pretty good draw, I think. Can also cast Savageborn Hydra for 3, tapping the Zertot Druid. Rubblebelt Raider is not a card that just Chris has drawn very often in the event. But if you get one good attack in, it can snowball pretty quick. Card's very good when you're ahead. And Chris is a little bit ahead, I would say, right now. So he is going to tap 4, cast the Raiders, and then presumably attack with the Burning Tree. Or he'll click through his attack step. Nope, no attacks. Interesting. Okay. The Zertot you can leave back and just use it to ping at the end step instead of attacking with it. Like, that makes sense. You must have plans for blocking with this Burning Tree. Scion of V2 Ghazi just being a good card. A lot of value. He's going to get a bird and another Centaur, presumably. That's what happens. And Scott's going to attack with his centaur that was around last turn. Chris drops to 14. Gonna ping for 1. Scott drops to 17. Chris draws Gruul Rage Beast, which would be really good on this board, but he's 2 mana from casting it. Just this one card like completely changed how this game looks. Just 8 power across 3 creatures for 5 mana. Seems good. Chris doesn't have a lot of great options here, so he'd have to swing out to get his Rebel Belt Raiders big enough to pass the Scion. If he could somehow entice Scott to double block, the Rampager would be really good, but Scott doesn't really need to block that much. Chris really lacks mana efficient plays here. Aurora Raiders triggers itself, my bad. So for each attacking creature you control, so he doesn't need to attack with the Druid. So this is a bit better now. Now he can just Rampager. If Scott double blocks, he Rampagers the Rebel Belt Raiders, or if he just goes block, that's fine too. Scott's just going to take 7, which likely is the best play there. Both players actually have some pretty good tricks. Chris with the Pit Fight and the Blood Rush effect, and then Scott has a Charm and Ready Willing, so... We could see Ready Willing just be nuts. Alright, so this is going to be a 4/4 hardcast the Gore Clan. Yeah, so Scott confused Ready and Willing. Potentially gain him 11 life and kill any blockers. It seems pretty good. It's highly acceptable. I don't know how Cockatrice decided that bird token is a 3 mana 1/2 red flyer from some old set. Arabian Nights, probably. No attacks. He's got looking at Ready Willing on defense, perhaps. Draws Deadbridge Goliath, which another large beater. This is a close game. So I think on the last turn, Scott could have swung out and then fused Ready Willing, gained a bunch of life, cleared out a blocker or 2. So I think that Gore Clan probably would have gotten in front of, or had to get in front of something. Well, no, not quite. I guess it's the attack would have put him to 3. And now that Chris no longer has the Gorkline Rampager in hand, he's probably less eager to attack with the small creatures. This has turned into a pretty complex board state. Chris might have missed a Zertop ping. Alright, so this is an end-step Selesnya Charm to probably exile Rubblebelt Raiders. I don't think making it 2/2 is relevant. Yeah, but it is a knight. Interesting. Just got really valuing the having creatures, I guess. Oh, he draws Armada Worm. That's a very strong one. Also super powerful with the willing side of Ready and Willing, because Death Touch and Trample is a pretty nice combo. I think he just slams it here. Like, the only thing he's worried about is Overload Mizium Mortars, I think, which would take out the rest of his creatures. Might just be a risk he has to take, because he's pretty far from getting to 9 mana to cast Armada Worm and keep up Ready. I think his win percentage might just be higher if he slams the worm here. Alright, Chris remembers the ping this time. I'm not 100% sure he missed one earlier, but it's possible. Alright, so Gruul Turf, not a bad draw. That will get him to 7 mana to cast a Rage Beast. And then, if his plan is to Rage Beast and then just basically turn all of his creatures into Flame Tongue Kabus, that doesn't seem too bad. Yeah, Chris, I think, is content with keeping things as they are. Both players looking kind of afraid to overcommit to this board, but it's kind of interesting that they're high end so powerful though. It's pretty interesting. But if Scott had gotten to untap with Armada Worm here, he probably just bash with everything and win. As it stands now, Armada Worm's still fine. We know that half it's probably going to get eaten by Gruul Rage Beast. Scott could cast Solana Starfletcher and still have 6 mana up if he wants to have Ready Willing available. And then the next turn he can cast Armada Worm, and still, if he doesn't need to cast Ready Willing, he'll still at least have half of this card available. That doesn't seem like a terrible hedge to me. And 6 mana looks like it's going to be Armada Worm, and it is. This board state's getting intense. Right, we've got the end of turn ping. So Scott's down to 8. Sure, this bird token's not just like getting in there. It's the only flyer on the board. Alright, so this is almost certainly Gruul Rage Beast. It's gonna, I would guess, come down and kill one of the 5/5s. So this could this could allow Chris to get some leverage here. Because now he's got 2 more creatures in hand that can come into play and take out something. Which seems pretty strong. Land, not really what Scott wanted there. I think I just like the all-out attack or close to it. Like, gain all that life. Here it comes. Everybody. The Knight has Vigilance. Which is good because it gives him a blocker against one of these big creatures. Less likely to die in the backswing. Chris is going to have to block very carefully here. But it likely just won't matter. He's at 14. This is an attack for 16. So he doesn't have to block many things. You can only block like 1 or 2 things. You could just like throw the Burning Tree under the Scion. 3, 7. Yeah, he'd take 12. And going to 2 isn't great. I think Ready and Willing is the only card in Scott's deck that makes this attack make sense. So I think Chris should be able to put him on it and make a fairly minimalist block. So right now he's got Rebel Belt trading with Armada Worm. Yeah, it looks like that's how we blocked. Alright, so Scott's going to gain 16 going to 23. And then Chris is going to take 4 from this trample, 5, 11. 11? He only took 9. 7. That is illegal. If he forgot to trample over, like, I'm not going to correct that because that is, he could assign all 5 damage to the blocker. He just doesn't have to. So I think my math might be off. I think Chris got a couple extra life points there. So now he's got to figure out how to come back from being 20 life points down against a bunch of big creatures. Could be very doable. Yeah, I thought Chris should have taken 11, not 9. But again, it's a legal assignment of damage, so I think he should be at 3. Because this would have dealt 4, 5, 8, 11. And he was at 14. Yeah, he should be at 3. So he's going to cast Deadbridge Goliath. Gruul Rage Beast will trigger. Deadbridge will probably fight the Scion. So he could fight the Knight if he wants to push damage through right now, but I think he wants to... He knows he has 2 big creatures in his hand, so if he can stabilize the board, he could potentially still get there in a long game. So that's exactly what he does. He just kills a creature and doesn't attack. Scott draws another land. I think he needs to be attacking with a bird. Like, if he had been attacking with a bird for the last couple turns. Could have Chris almost dead now. Tapping 3. This card costs 3. It does cost 3. My bad. I thought it was a... I guess it is a 1-3. Yeah, it'd be pretty good if it was only 2 mana. Sorry about that. I got some weird notification from Cockatrice. But, alright, so the bird does get in there. People shouldn't. I don't know what's going on. I might have to turn those notifications off. I'm guessing Chris drew a land because he already had these 3 cards in hand. He's got enough mana he can cast a Firebird and Pit Fight. Something. Seems good. And it says a Bloodthirst because his Zertot Druid dealt damage this turn. It's a pretty nice combo. This is a 6/6 flyer. It's going to trigger Gruul Rage Beast. He's going to kill the Armada Worm. I think Chris has stabilized. He even has Pit Fight up. Scott has no cards in hand. Scott really looking to draw some gas here. He's definitely flooded out this game. I think Scott accidentally passed the turn. He was trying to go to his draw step, and the program's not letting him. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on here. Scott drew Twilight Drover. So not the worst. It's probably not going to win in the game, though. I mean, he should cast it. But when a creature token leaves the battlefield, he gets a counter. You move a counter, make 2 spirits. Well, it's very possible that some creature tokens will soon be leaving the battlefield. Chris has assembled an army. I think it's going to be... This Gruul Rage Beast doing a ton of work. Chris draws Forest. It does let him cast this Hydra for 1 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mana. So you can cast an 8/8 Savage Born Hydra. Does not seem bad. I'd probably just cast it and shoot down the Twilight Drover before he gets any ideas. One way Chris could lose is if he allows the Twilight Drover to make some spirit tokens and then he dies to like chump attacks from flyers. From 1/1 flyers. So here is the Hydra. So he's casting Hydra for 5, so he's going to leave up Pit Fight. And also the ping on the Zerta Druid. Alright, so he does kill the Twilight Drover. I think that's the right play here. I think he can get in with maybe the Deadbridge Goliath, but he's playing it safe, I guess. Yeah, that guy just gets double blocked by Centaurs, actually. Scott draws Grove of the Guardian. That is... That can make an 8/8. This game is not over yet. I have no idea why he's activating it during his main phase. That is not necessary at all. He's just tapping 2 blockers for no apparent reason. But this 8/8 is going to be pretty good. I've decided we're not getting a mystery guest. Apparently no one wants to hang out with me, so... Gonna change that. There we go. Joined by no one. Sad face. Chris has Rurik Thar the Unbowed. The card would have been better before that 8/8 showed up. Now he's just going to cast it, and then it's going to attack into the 8/8 next turn. But it probably doesn't matter, because he has so many huge threats, he can probably just start Alpha Striking, getting in there for large amounts of damage. Now he's making the Hydra big enough to block the 8/8, or tussle with it. I think Chris's main out is if he has Abzan Ghost Council in his deck somewhere. That card would be extremely good on a board like this. That's very stalled. So it's a 9/9. Alright, so he's going to cast the Pit Fight, and he's going to off this Elemental. It also makes sense he can't cast Pit Fight with Rurik Thar in play since he's below 6. And just for good measure, here comes a 9/9 Double Striker. Scott could go to 3. That doesn't seem great, though. Should probably chump with something. This is why I didn't think he needed to make the 8/8 before. Maybe Chris would have just put more counters on here. He could have gotten a block and then gotten an 8/8, possibly. Alright, so Centaur chump blocked, and now we've got a top deck of Beckon Apparition, not a particularly powerful draw here. He'll probably cast it in response to Rurik Thar. It's a big Hydra. Yeah, Scott just has no plays here. He's getting eaten up by the Rage Beast. All the big things. Scarred Guildmage. He can give all of his creatures trample. That might just win the game. This will be, yeah, he can give his double striker trample. That just seems completely ridiculous. And this guy, trample over for 5. Yeah, he could probably just attack with, like, everybody but the Zertod Druid. And give them all trample, and that should do it. Oh, and he gets to fight the bird. I was wondering, like, why is he giving that thing trample? He can't even do that. Yeah, I think this is just the lethal attack. This is 5-9. No, Scott didn't even. Okay, I guess it was. Scott conceded. So we are going to game 3. Tied 1-1. It's a big game. Looks like Chris was in trouble for a little while. But he got out of it. His chances of advancing are certainly much better if he wins this game. Players are sideboarding. We'll get back over to the stack list. I was starting to talk about, yeah, that Abzan would have been good. It's hard to cast. Putrefy seems very good. Any, like, Glare of Subdual seems good. Like, anything that neutralizes a large creature, basically. Yeah, Glare of Subdual, Putrefy, Abzan. Some combination of those things. Oops. Yeah, so I don't have the standings. I don't think I have a super recent standings graphic. No, that's really old. Okay. No, it's from round 3. All right. Well, the game's starting, so we do see Chris brought in Savage Twister, and he's got Mizzy Mortar, so 2 sweeper sort of effects seems pretty good. Scott did bring in the Glare, which makes complete sense. He has no white mana, however. So this is on the draw. I could see maybe keeping this. He's got black-green to cast Kuro's the Guild Mage. He needs to hit a white, though. Play any of these 3 cards. That's pretty sketch. I think Chris should keep. Scott, there's an argument both ways. There's something to be said. This is like, this could be your last game of the tournament. Like, do you want to risk just casting no spells, or casting only 1 spell? I could see the argument for taking a mulligan, but if he keeps and hits a white, like, I think that's fine too. Oh no, Scott's on the play. What am I talking about? Okay, I think I would ship this on the play. I don't think you can keep this on the play. Only he's got like two chances to hit a white. And then the hand's like good, but not completely busted or anything. Okay, yeah, it's probably a mulligan, I think. Oh, it's still good if he gets there. It's just harder to get there. Chris is a little bit land heavy, but having the Twister and being able to overload mortars makes it really not a big deal. Twister and Zertod Druid's a bit of a non-bow. Okay, so we got Pillar of the Perunes. I think that's going to be good enough because all of his white spells are multicolored, so he does get there. Chris can go Burning Tree into Zertod Druid. It's a pretty good turn, too. We'll see if Scott fires off Selesnya Charm. I thought he was just going to cast Kuro's the Guild Mage, but he did not do so. Corrodes the Guildmage's Intimidate ability potentially good here also. This is the end of turn Selesnya Charm. Hey, good night. 2/2 Vigilance. Alright, we've got a knight. Scott draws Advent of the Worm, which he is a green or a white away from casting, so that's not too bad. This is Unflinching Courage. That could be met next turn by Museum Mortars, which would definitely be a 2-for-1. There's the risk of playing cards like this. He's going to get 4 damage and 4 life out of it, so not too bad. That dude still has Vigilance. Yeah, there we go. Rebel Belt Raiders. That is castable right now also. I think, though, he's just going to have to take care of this 4/4. Yeah, I think you just have to Mortars this guy. As much as you'd rather do something else. I just don't think... well, he's playing the Raiders. I don't think he wants to take another hit from that guy. I guess it's not the end of the world, but... Orzhov Guildgate. So that coming into play tapped kind of hurts, because now Scott's only play here is the Corrodes the Guildmage, whereas the Larissa Duel would he'd probably rather have that. It does give him white mana to cast a mono white spell. Could be relevant. And here's Corrodes the Guildmage. If Chris doesn't, Scott didn't attack. That's interesting. Okay. So that actually worked out really well for Chris. If he doesn't pull the trigger on the Mortars here, he could potentially get blown out by the first ability on the Guildmage. And up, here's the Mortars. Card we haven't seen a lot of in this tournament either. It's probably one of Chris's best cards. It's not a lot of sweepers in this format. It's a one-sided one. Sometimes. Card was very good when it was in Standard. We played it in a lot of decks. Also, it's pretty sweet in the Red Devotion decks. After Theros came out, you could just like tap your Nykthos, make 6 mana, overload Mortars, call out your opponent's stuff, which is pretty sweet. Oh, now Raiders and Burning Tree come across for this is gonna be 7. And Chris got Scott on the back foot here suddenly. So the more conservative play here is to cast Glare of Subdual. Tap down. That's what Scott's doing. Tap down the Rebel Belt Raiders and take the hit for 3, and then next turn he can play Advent of the Worm and Grove of the Guardian and try to make a 5/5 and an 8/8. So it's the slower play, but it's probably going to pay off better in the long term. However, we know that pit fight's coming. Pit fight, take out the guild mage, and then this Robo Raiders is going to become an 8/8. Dude's getting out of control. This is going to be attack for 11. It seems pretty good. Glarissa Duel is so powerful when it gets going, but Chris managing to preempt it with the pit fight. Even if anything weird happens, Chris can Savage Twister, and his Robo Raiders is not going to die. So I definitely like his position right now. Ready, willing, another one. Not great when you have no creatures. Pit fight was pretty clutch there. Yeah, I was saying he could have, if he couldn't kill the crows, the guild mage, Scott could have made the 5/5, and then use the grove, tap down 2 things and use a grove on the next turn, make an 8/8. No, Scott's not just dead here. I believe if Chris doesn't draw anything, Scott can cast Advent pre-combat and use it and the glare to tap the Rebel Belt Raiders and then take 3 damage going to 1, and then hope to top deck. But Skarg the Rage Pits is going to give Chris Exaxes. Alright, so Worm taps here. Yeah, this is going to be attack. Attack, Skarg. I think it's going to do it. So Scott's going to be eliminated. Chris is going to go to 4 and 3. Pretty likely to advance. Abzan was in there. That would have been really good in the previous game, like I said. And, Chris gets the win. Pretty big win. That is 4 damage. And that'll do it. I'm not sure if I'm going to be talking to the players. It doesn't look like it. Okay. Yeah, it's a weeknight. I think we're just going to be done with the recording for today. So Chris goes to 4 and 3. Scott out at 2 and 5. We've still got 3 matches left for this round, and then also 1 match in round 6. My match hasn't been played yet, so still got 6 people live for the 4 playoff spots. Scott's the second one to be eliminated, and we'll be back soon with more rotisserie draft Magic coverage.